Picture someone who always believed they were untouchable, suddenly standing there with no power at all, staring at a love they will never get back. That is the moment everything they built starts to fall apart. It is not just a broken heart. It is a complete collapse where pride, control, and false beliefs all crash into each other. And in one sharp, burning moment, they finally understand that this love is gone for good. Take a moment to pause. If you have ever been on the other side of someone like this, hold on to this truth. Real love leaves a mark that never fades. No one, no matter how calculating or manipulative, can take away the depth of what you gave. See your own strength in walking away while they are left to face what their choices created. The moment of finality is one of the most crushing things a person like this can ever go through. Someone who has spent their whole life controlling people, twisting situations, and bending the world to fit what they want. They are simply not prepared for this. For a narcissist, relationships are almost always about gain. They are used to people giving in, compromising, or coming back to them no matter what happened. So when they lose someone who represents real love, the kind that is honest, deep, and not driven by ego, they suddenly come face to face with a reality they cannot twist or escape. At first, they refuse to accept it. They tell themselves the loss is only temporary. They think that with enough effort they can somehow undo it. They replay every conversation in their head, going over every word and every moment, looking for some crack they can squeeze through to take back control. But unlike a simple heartbreak that can be numbed by someone new or a few kind words, this loss is permanent. And that permanence is something they simply cannot bear. The second they truly realize this person is not coming back, it hits them harder than almost anything they have ever felt. Their usual tricks, shifting blame, twisting the truth, exploding in anger, or turning on the charm, suddenly mean nothing. The finality rips through their defenses and leaves them exposed in a way they are not used to. They cannot push this pain onto someone else because the person they used as an emotional mirror has shut the door for good. The shock they feel is both emotional and mental. They have to accept that all their usual ways of controlling and manipulating will not bring this person back. They also have to accept something even harder, that the person they lost was never just a reflection of their ego. That person was a real human being with their own feelings and firm boundaries that could not be bent. This realization sets off a storm of intense emotions inside them: panic, deep grief, rage, and even fear. This is not like ordinary heartbreak that softens with time. For a narcissist, losing real love forever feels like a threat to their very existence. It is the first time they face a love that could not be dominated or pulled back. And being confronted with that permanence leaves a deep and destabilizing mark on who they are inside. The shock is not only about losing a person, it is about losing the belief that they can always get whatever they want. And that is often more terrifying to them than anything else they have ever had to face. For a narcissist, relationships are almost never about genuine togetherness. They are about what they can get: admiration, attention, approval, and emotional energy taken from others. When a person comes along who consistently gives them this reinforcement, often without pushing back, it creates a sense of control and internal security for the narcissist. This is the kind of person they need most. When real love enters their life, it is a different kind of love, one that does not simply go along with everything. Real love has boundaries, it is genuine, and it has the ability to reflect back the narcissist's flaws in a way they cannot easily ignore. At first, this love may still feed their ego, but as time goes on, it also reveals what they cannot fix: their inability to form a truly deep emotional connection. Losing this kind of love is about far more than losing a partner. It is about losing the emotional foundation that held their sense of self together. They are suddenly cut off from the steady stream of validation that made them feel real and stable, and they are left staring at the emptiness that was always sitting underneath. Without that constant feeding of their ego, the whole world they constructed, built on admiration, influence, and control, starts to crumble. It feels to them as though a piece of who they are has been torn away. For so long, they made their worth and stability equal to what they could get from others. Losing it sets off a reaction that is unlike any typical heartbreak. Where ordinary heartbreak can ease over time with distractions and new connections, this absence creates a void that just does not go away. They may rush to replace it with someone new, leaning on charm or manipulation, but nothing fills the gap. Real love cannot be faked, performed, or controlled back into existence. It is permanent, honest, and one of a kind. Emotionally, they are flooded with panic, emptiness, and a terrifying sense of threat. The person they lost was not just a companion. That person was the lifeline of their ego, the mirror that told them every day who they were. When that mirror disappears, they are forced to look at themselves with nothing to hide behind. No praise, no validation, nothing. The loss brings forward everything they try to keep buried: their vulnerability, their deep dependence on others, and the hollow space inside that they never admit to. Losing this kind of love is not just a relational loss, it completely disrupts their identity and destroys the sense of invincibility they worked so hard to maintain, and the pain it brings is unlike anything else they have ever known. One of the most painful things a narcissist faces after losing real love is being forced to look at their own flaws. This is something they spend their entire lives avoiding. They are highly skilled at avoiding blame, shifting it onto others, twisting events to protect themselves, or finding ways to make their own actions seem reasonable. When things fall apart in a relationship, they have a whole internal system for moving responsibility away from themselves. But losing a genuine and unconditional love cuts through all of that. The permanence of what happened removes every exit route, and they are left standing with an uncomfortable truth they cannot walk away from. Their own behavior played a major role in destroying something real and meaningful. This confrontation shakes them to their core because narcissists build their entire sense of self around being perfect, in control, and above others. Admitting failure is not just uncomfortable, it threatens to collapse their whole identity. They may experience guilt, shame, and a deep sense of not being enough, but these emotions feel strange and confusing because they rarely experience them. The person they lost loved them for who they actually were, not for the image they put forward. Without charm or manipulation to fall back on, without the ability to rewrite what happened, the narcissist cannot escape the reality that they helped ruin something that truly mattered. This moment creates a war inside them. One part of them is screaming to deny everything, make excuses, and find someone new to feed the ego. The other part is forced to recognize that the person they lost saw through the act, understood their limitations, and made a firm decision to leave. The awareness of their own imperfections, their lack of empathy, their self-centeredness, their emotional neglect becomes impossible to push aside. It is a kind of mirror they almost never face, and the image it shows is brutal. Unlike ordinary heartbreak, where the main feeling is just longing or loss, this cuts straight to the center of who they believe themselves to be. They are forced to try to reconcile the version of themselves they show the world with the version that actually exists. That confrontation brings confusion, rage, and deep fear. The pain works on two levels: the outer loss of someone they can never replace, and the inner recognition of qualities in themselves they cannot easily change. For a narcissist, facing their own flaws is not just a humbling moment. It is a psychological earthquake that shakes everything they believe about themselves, and the regret and self-awareness it leaves behind is something they cannot twist or manipulate away. When a narcissist loses real love for good, one of the most unsettling things they then experience is the fear of being seen clearly. Narcissists spend their lives carefully building an image, a version of themselves that hides weakness, insecurity, and deep emotional flaws. Their relationships usually function beneath this illusion, letting them appear confident, charming, and in control while keeping the truth of who they really are hidden from view. But real love cuts through all of that. A partner who truly sees them, accepts them as they are, and still holds firm boundaries is a mirror they cannot manipulate. Losing that person forces them to face everything about themselves they have worked so hard to keep concealed. This fear of being truly seen is both psychological and emotional. They understand that their patterns, the manipulation, the selfishness, the emotional neglect, are no longer hidden. The permanence of the loss means there is no chance to fix things, explain things away, or cover up their shortcomings. Unlike in casual relationships where charm or a surface-level apology can reset how someone sees them, the person they lost has already looked behind the mask and chosen to walk away. That knowledge, the fact that someone permanently witnessed their flaws, cannot be undone. It sits like a shadow in the back of their mind, reminding them that the version of themselves they tried to sell to the world is no longer believable. The fear of being exposed often triggers panic and inner chaos. They obsessively go over past actions in their mind, trying to pinpoint exactly what gave them away or how they were seen so accurately. At the same time, they may try to put the blame on the other person, doing their best to downplay their own responsibility. But deep inside, they already know the truth. This awareness attacks their sense of being untouchable, leaving them feeling small, uncertain, and exposed in a way they almost never allow. Unlike most people who can reflect on mistakes gradually and honestly, a narcissist experiences being exposed as immediate and destabilizing. It is a direct hit to the ego structure they rely on for stability, and it brings every feeling of inadequacy and failure rushing to the surface. This fear goes beyond embarrassment. It reaches something existential. Losing real love forever strips away every illusion, every mirror to hide behind, and every protection that secrecy once gave them. For the narcissist, this fear of being seen is a constant gnawing reminder that they are vulnerable, flawed, and ultimately just human, and that realization disturbs them in a way that goes very deep. When a narcissist loses real love forever, what tends to follow is an emotional meltdown that looks nothing like a normal heartbreak. It is not simply sadness or longing. It is a full unraveling of the controlled and polished image they present to the world. Narcissists depend on control, manipulation, and emotional armor to get through relationships and through life. They are used to managing how things unfold, shaping how others see them, and avoiding responsibility for anything that goes wrong. But when real love leaves permanently, every single one of those defenses stops working. They are left open, unprotected, and face to face with emotions they rarely let themselves feel: deep grief, rage, emptiness, and fear. The meltdown starts with disbelief. They replay interactions over and over in their head, desperately searching for some moment where things could have gone differently. This mental spiral usually turns into anger, directed not only at the other person but at themselves for what they failed to do. Unlike ordinary heartbreak, where anger might come out in a manageable way, a narcissist's anger is intense, explosive, and often makes no sense to those around them because it is tangled up with wounded pride. They feel humiliated by the fact that they could not hold on to what they had, and powerless against something that is now permanent and unchangeable. Alongside the rage, a deep emptiness takes hold. The person they lost was more than a partner. That person was a source of validation, admiration, and emotional nourishment. Without them, there is a hollow space that nothing and no one else can fill. Unlike losses that fade in time, this absence is constant and gnawing. Every attempt to move on, charming someone new, rewriting the past in their mind, distracting themselves, only makes it clearer that what they had was real and what they now have is hollow. The emotional meltdown swings wildly between self-pity, despair, and desperate attempts to regain some sense of control. They go back and forth between blaming the other person and feeling something that resembles guilt or shame, though those feelings are usually buried beneath layers of self-centered frustration. What makes this uniquely painful is that their usual tools are gone. Manipulation does not work. Twisting the truth does not work. Charm does not work. The collapse is total. A narcissist confronted with the permanent loss of real love experiences a breakdown that shakes everything their identity was built on, leaving them raw, destabilized, and painfully aware of the human fragility they have spent a lifetime denying. One of the most destabilizing things for a narcissist after losing real love forever is discovering that their usual way of coping simply does not work, and their usual way of coping is rewriting the story. Narcissists are masters at controlling how events are understood, both by others and by themselves. When they make mistakes or face conflict in a relationship, their instinct is to spin the story, explain away their behavior, or direct blame somewhere else so they come out looking reasonable or even superior. This bending of reality protects their fragile inner world and keeps them feeling in control. And in most situations, it works. But when real love is permanently gone, these strategies hit a wall, and the failure of those strategies is deeply unsettling. Rewriting the story depends on having an audience. It depends on being able to convince someone that the narcissist's version of events is the true one, or that their intentions were misread. But real love is grounded in honesty, emotional clarity, and firm limits. The person who genuinely loved them has already seen past the manipulation and made the choice to leave, making it impossible to distort reality in a way that wins them back. Every attempt to rationalize, twist the truth, or reframe the narrative falls apart because there is no longer anyone present to receive it or accept it. There is no audience for the act anymore, and the narcissist is left with the plain, unedited truth. Their actions brought about a permanent loss. This failure creates deep anxiety and inner chaos. Without the ability to control the story, their sense of self begins to crack. They can no longer pretend to be all-powerful or morally above others. They are forced to confront the gap between who they claim to be and what their behavior actually produced. The breakdown is often filled with frustration, anger, and obsessive mental replaying as they try to fix the narrative in their head. But no matter how many ways they rearrange the story, reality stays the same. Unlike ordinary heartbreak, where reflection can gradually help someone make sense of what happened, a narcissist cannot soften this blow. The permanent absence of real love exposes the limits of manipulation and reveals just how inadequate their ego-protecting strategies really are. The story cannot be rewritten, and they are left with something rare and bitter, a feeling of complete helplessness, humiliation, and unavoidable clarity, an inescapable confrontation with the truth of what they destroyed, and the knowledge that no amount of charm, excuses, or clever storytelling can ever bring it back. For a narcissist, losing real love forever often leads to a deep and crushing isolation, an experience they are completely unprepared to handle. Narcissists move through life surrounded by people, but those connections are almost always about what they can extract: admiration, validation, emotional reinforcement. True closeness, the kind that both challenges and fully accepts them, is something they rarely experience. When they lose someone who offered genuine love, they lose far more than a partner. They lose the one mirror that both confirmed them and held them accountable at the same time. That absence creates a void that is both emotional and existential. Unlike ordinary heartbreak, where friends, distractions, or new relationships can help someone slowly heal, a narcissist cannot bridge this gap so easily. Most of their relationships are shallow, built on image and transaction. Those connections cannot come close to replacing the depth of what real love provided. Suddenly, they are facing something they cannot manage: being alone, not just physically, but emotionally, without anyone who truly sees them or meaningfully challenges them. The loneliness deepens because the person they lost provided something honest, a kind of validation that came from a real place, not from performance. Without it, their carefully maintained sense of self starts to feel empty and unstable. The isolation also brings something they always try to avoid: self-awareness. Alone with their own thoughts, they are forced to face what they lost, why they lost it, and how their own behavior directly led to this permanent break. They may feel guilt, frustration, and a quiet sense of not being enough. These feelings are often wrapped in shame, which is deeply uncomfortable because it threatens the ego at its most basic level. Without someone to soothe them, confirm them, or absorb their emotional weight, the scaffolding they always depended on is gone. and they are vulnerable in ways they have rarely been forced to sit with. This kind of loneliness is layered and uniquely painful. It is not just about missing someone. It is about facing the emptiness of a life built around control and taking, now unable to reach the love and connection they desperately want. It is destabilizing in a way that drives them to try to win back what they lost or numb themselves with shallow new connections. But nothing comes close to what is truly gone. The isolation and loneliness in this situation are not short-lived. They act as a mirror, showing the gap between what the narcissist wants and what they actually have, a gap they cannot manipulate or erase, and a stark reminder that some losses cannot be undone. When a narcissist loses real love forever, one of the most lasting consequences they face is irreversible regret. This is not a passing disappointment or a heartbreak that softens with time. This type of loss is permanent, and it forces a narcissist to face something they almost never voluntarily acknowledge. Some things, some people, some connections cannot be manipulated, controlled, or replaced. Real love is one of a kind because it is rooted in truth, genuine respect, and emotional depth. No amount of charm, apology, or future tactics can undo the fact that the person who loved them for who they truly were has walked away for good. And that absence leaves a slow, unavoidable ache that follows them wherever they go. Regret for a narcissist hits in a uniquely intense way because it strikes at the very foundation of who they believe themselves to be. They are used to getting what they want. They are used to shaping relationships around their own needs and to maintaining a sense of power through control and influence. Losing real love permanently is a direct contradiction to all of that. They are forced to admit, at least inside themselves, that their own actions, their selfishness, their emotional absence, their manipulation, their cruelty led directly to this outcome. Unlike ordinary remorse that might push someone toward making things right or trying again, their regret is made sharper by the knowledge that nothing can reverse the damage. The door to reclaiming that love, that validation, that authentic connection is permanently closed. This permanent loss forces them to reckon with their own limitations, their flaws, and their failures in ways they usually spend a great deal of energy avoiding. Every attempt to rationalize or rewrite what happened fails because the other person's absence is undeniable. The unchangeable nature of the situation amplifies the psychological and emotional weight they carry. They may move through cycles of frustration, envy, and longing, wishing deeply they could go back and do things differently. But the reality they are stuck with will not shift. Irreversible regret is one of the most destabilizing things a narcissist can experience because it cannot be escaped, ignored, or twisted away. It is not just sadness or anger. It is a deep, haunting awareness of what they destroyed and why they can never get it back. The permanent departure of real love leaves a hollow space inside them that echoes, a constant reminder that some losses are final and some connections exist entirely beyond their reach and control. For the narcissist, this is one of the harshest truths life will ever hand them. The recognition that even the sharpest manipulation, even the most polished charm, cannot reclaim what has been truly and permanently lost.